Welcome to the Dram Amateur Podcast. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Dram Amateur Podcast. My name is Jason. Thank you all so much for listening today. Certainly appreciate it. If you do not follow me on social media, man, would I appreciate a follow? I really would. And especially on where you find your podcast as well, right? If you want to subscribe and follow and listen to the podcast, I would certainly appreciate it. Social medias, you can find me on Instagram under Dram_amateur. Definitely would love to interact with you. I appreciate the follow and the interaction, but share my stories, share my reels, my pictures, interact with me, reach out to me, DM me, let me know what you liked about the podcast, what you didn't like about the podcast. Tell me about the pour you just had, right? What did you have that you really liked? Introduce me to something new. I think that's one of the things I like most about the whiskey world, or the spirits world, spirit world. This is what I do not like about being not specific on something, because I enjoy rum, tequila, bourbon, whiskey, all those things. What do you call it? The liquor world, the spirits world? If you call it the spirits world, I feel like I'm like a median or oh, Jesus. I don't know, psychic, right? Welcome to the spirit world. I mean, come on, man. I need a new word for that. I don't know. I'm just rambling now. Anyway, so, but yes, follow me. Would greatly appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Those of you that already do, I appreciate you more than you know. So yeah, it's Sunday morning. Super excited. Sunday morning after the divisional series of the NFL playoffs. For those of you that know me, you know that I am a San Francisco 49ers fan. You're probably, half of you are probably like, cool. The other half are probably rolling their eyes right now. I did not grow up in California. I grew up in Massachusetts. When I grew up in Massachusetts, the Patriots were absolutely freaking terrible. Didn't really pay any attention to the Patriots in any way, shape, and form. So I remember one Christmas, my aunt and uncle gave my brother and I, I think my brother got a trash can. I think I got sweatpants. I think we actually both may have got sweatpants and trash cans. I don't remember. But we got NFL like gear. My brother got the Dolphins. I got the 49ers. So being a little kid, I mean, geez, man, I think I was like 8 years old. I don't even think I'd hit 10 yet, right? Being a little kid, enjoying sports, right? I played baseball growing up and played football with my friends in the street, played basketball a ton growing up as well. So like being a sports kid, started like in the Niners. And think about it. That was the time. That was Montana, Rice, Taylor, Roger Craig, Rathman, Brent Jones, right? Like all of those guys, Ronnie Lott, Charles Hill, the list goes on and on and on and on, right? So like back then they were great. So as a little kid, you go hop on that bandwagon and you ride that bandwagon until you want to jump off. And guess what? I'm still on that bandwagon. So yeah, I've been a Niners fan since then. I have been with them through the thicks and the thins, the ups and the downs, the goods and the bads. I could have easily, as most people, or not most people, but as some bandwagoners do, jump ship and not be a 49ers fan and switch over to the Patriots when they started playing amazing with Brady and all them, right? Never did that. I've been a Niner through thick and thin. I will always be a Niner through thick and thin. I bleed red and gold. Bang, bang, Niner gang. I got a Niners flag flying outside my house. I wear Niners gear every Sunday. My Sundays and Saturdays, or at least Sundays in the week on football season, revolve around Niner football. I am a true Niners fan to death. So last night was the divisional series, or the divisional round. We were playing the Pack, right? Lots of history with us and the Green Bay Packers, both in the playoffs as well as just normal games throughout the season. I can tell you countless stories of Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, getting our asses handed to us, having some really close games. I think every game I always remember was just so freaking close, except some of the ones with Colin Kaepernick. We won't talk about those Packer fans. I'm sorry. They probably chap your ass. Our probably wins that we won with like Robbie Gould kicking a last minute field goal when it's snowing like a motherfucker in Green Bay probably chaps your ass too, but we won't talk about those. But anyways, so the Pack, I mean, let's be honest, man, that's a team that I did not foresee being where they're at right now and playing the way that they're playing, right? This week when my wife and I were on vacation, I was obviously paying very close attention to the games. We were watching the games on my phone, even when we were on vacation, walking around doing things. And the Packers literally destroyed the Cowboys in Dallas. One of two things, right? When you see something like that from a team like Dallas that was supposedly so good, so prepared, so ready to go, and I don't think they lost to a team at home this year. For the Packers to walk in and annihilate them like they did, they didn't just beat them; they annihilated them. I was really surprised, and you start to wonder two things, right? One, is this because Dallas sucks and the Packers beat them? Or are the Packers really that good that you need to be nervous and you need to be ready for that next game, right? It was funny, even when we were on vacation, there was other Niners fans walking around. So Sunday I had my Niners stuff on, right? And other Niners fans were walking around and saying, "Go Niners." I'm like, "You see the game? Yeah, Packers beat the Cowboys. It's so great." So it was really cool. Well, I found out last night the Packers are legit. I am not going to even lie to you. I don't think they're getting the credit that they deserve. I even saw articles going into this week where it was like, look at the Packers' last 5 games of the season. They barely beat teams, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. That team is getting better and better and better and better every single week that they played. What were they? 3-6, I think, in November. I think I heard. And then they obviously won to get into the playoffs, and they were fantastic yesterday. The ground game looked amazing. We could not stop the ground game, and that makes me very, very nervous that if the Lions win today, we are going to struggle like hell to stop their run game. If the Lions win today in the NFC Championship next week, their blocking schemes, it seemed like every single time they ran the ball, watching the screen, there was a Packer immediately on a 49er and for 5 yards ahead of where Aaron Jones was running. The next blocks at the second level, third level were there. So Aaron Jones just kept running and running and running. And I was just like, oh my gosh. In the first half, I was cheering, excited, yelling at the screen, all of that stuff. When we hit halftime, Kyle did this stupid shit at the end at the second half where we didn't push the ball down the field. We played to for a field goal, and it just was not the way I wanted to end the second half, because we got the ball at the start of the at the end of the first half. We got the ball at the start of the second half. I was really I got quiet. The second half, I was very quiet, very focused on the game. I cheered, right, but not a lot. It wasn't like in the first half when I'm literally yelling at the screen every 5 seconds, cheering or yelling, "What the hell are you doing?" It started to really sink in that the Packers are a fantastic team. I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with next year. They're the youngest team in the NFL right now, so think about that. Youngest team in the NFL, got to the divisional round in the playoffs. They should have won that game last night. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with next year. Jordan Love's the real deal. Aaron Jones looked great. Their talent looks good. We couldn't do anything last night. Brock Purdy had flashes of looking good, and then there was other times that he didn't look good, and I'm yelling, "What the hell are you doing?" His throws were sometimes even all over the place. Our offensive line struggled to give him a pocket at times and give him time to throw. We struggled to get the run game going in a couple times. God, their defense even looked good against us. I mean, we obviously had some big quality runs, which was great. They had some breakdowns in coverage with the Kittle touchdown, stuff like that. That's great for us, right? But it was not the Niners game that I'm used to. There was a lot of struggle, a lot of mistakes. We lost Debo, which sucks. I'm hearing some stories that Debo's okay and he's probably going to be available for the championship game. I don't know how accurate that is. Hell, man, even if Debo can freaking run, a decoy is better than nothing, right? Like, I mean, crying out loud, man, it sucks not to have him out there. So we'll see. Happy we won, right? Great. Like Jordan Love threw that interception at the end of the game there in that last final drive. And it's funny, our defense finally started to look awake that drive. The intensity was up. They were scrambling to the ball. They were instantly everywhere you need them to be. And like even that interception, I mean, Greenlaw was running across the field one way, Warner was running across the field the other way. Like that true Niner defense is what it looked like in that last drive. So thank goodness we won. Really glad about that. I will be honest with you. I am very nervous walking into the NFC Championship game. If we play the way that we did last night, we're not going to win. We are not going to win it at all. And I'm going to have another season where we have this amazing freaking season with all this talent and we just don't get there. That's been my story now for several years. It sucks. It is what it is, right? It's football. But it's really difficult sometimes. So anyways, yeah, I'm bitching. You guys, half of you guys probably have teams at home. Or 3/4 of you people probably have teams at home, and you're laughing at me saying, "Oh, it must really suck to be in the NFC Championship game and lose and bitch about it." Yeah, I know. I hear you. I'm sorry. When you have a team that's like this dominant and everything's right? Like it's like I just want to win before Debo leaves, Ayuk leaves, Christian leaves, Trent Williams leaves, Warner, like all this talent. Like it's like, oh my God, I want to win before everybody leaves. I would love to have a Super Bowl. It'll be amazing. It'll be awesome. So, all right. So today, from the last episode, if you remember, I talked about a little bit about the bourbon market, right? I think a couple of my podcasts have either been me about burnout lately or the bourbon market changing a little bit. But there was a post that somebody had made on Facebook that I thought was really, really good. And I know who the person is. So I know a little bit about their story. They've been in the bourbon world a little longer than I have. But I thought that the post that they made on a Facebook post was really interesting. And I wanted to share it and read it because I think, I'll be honest, I see a lot of things through Instagram, through other people. I see a lot of things changing. I don't know if anybody else sees it. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's because people have a blocker up and they don't see it. But I can tell you that from when I got into this stuff 3 years ago now, 3.5 years ago now, it is very different today than it was 3.5 years ago. And I will tell you this, and this is why I want to read this, because I think this is pretty relevant. And I'm going to share my feedback as well, because the person that wrote this, they're even, I think, 1 year to 2 or maybe even 3 or further from where I was in this, right? So if I look at, when I read this to you, right, I'll share their feedback about the bourbon world. I will share then mine and like my experiences, and then kind of where we're at now. And I'm just wondering that as time goes by, are more and more and more people going to start to feel this way? Because it's funny, when this person wrote this, the comments about how much they agree with the person were abundant. Even other posts on the Facebook post, or even other comments on the Facebook post that were not directly in response to this person's post, were very much in the same way. Like they were the same, like, I'm burnt out, or like there's this brand, or I don't like the way things are changing. So there's a lot of aspects to this entire bourbon world that I think have to be thought about when you think about this, or when you consider this. So I'm going to read this. I'm going to share some of my feedback as we go, because I want to share my perspective as well. I think it's interesting. And I honestly too, I want to hear yours, right? So like when you reach out to me on Instagram, share where you're at, right? Do you agree? Even just a little, right? As I go through this, do you agree just a little bit? Do you agree that you're in the same boat on some of these things, but maybe not fully there yet. Are you getting to that point? Like, where I would really be curious to hear where you're at. And I'll share some of my experiences here as we talk through this. So let me read the first paragraph and get started. So I've had it, and this is not from me, this is from somebody else, but I'm going to read it as they posted it, and then I'll talk through it. So I've had issues the last couple of years with the bourbon world in general. What used to be a fun hobby has devolved into either a full-time job or gotten to the point where I just don't care anymore. I still enjoy the whiskeys, but I've become jaded with the community, the hunt, and the distilleries. So with that, right, if you think about all the things that go into what this is now, and depending on how much you immerse yourself into it, right, I think that's part of this that you have to consider too, right? How much of this is a hobby still that's fun, but then the hobby side of this gets taken away depending on how much you get into it. It can become a job. Hobbies can sometimes be work. I mean, look, I'm recording a damn podcast, right? Depending on your level of, I want to be a part of this, I want to be in this, whatever, right? It does become a little bit of work. But I don't think that the full-time job part of this is about the passion side of the hobby, okay? And let me kind of just give you my feedback. Where I see this have becoming a quote-unquote full-time job, and maybe that's too strong, right? And there's people rolling their eyes going, yeah, it's how much you put into it, right? But I think when you read the rest of this, you'll understand that it's about the acquisition of bottles, right? And finding things that are either unique, they're interesting, they're allocated, it's something you want, it's not marked up in price. You don't have to go jump through hoops to go find these things to get the opportunity to find it. It's all that kind of piece of it that I think becomes the full-time job part of it. So let me read, and with that then too, right, becomes, depending on where you're at, becomes part of the community aspect, the distillery aspect. And I think you're going to hear some of that. So here's the next paragraph. So first and foremost for me, I'm over the hunt largely because it simply does not exist anymore. It used to be fun to get up on your day off and buzz around to a few stores, chat with the owners or the familiar faces of workers you've developed a rapport with. From time to time, you'd find an allocated bottle just sitting on the shelf, or they'd pull something from the back and offer it to you. It was exciting to see what you could find, especially if you were off the beaten path. Now, however, you can go to the middle of nowhere and find rare bottles sitting for prices well above secondary. Every store has a bottle of Weller 12 or Elmer T. Lee. They don't even hide anymore. They just slap $250 on it and see who's got the most FOMO. Hunt videos are becoming a common staple on YouTube sphere with taglines like, I just hit the mother lode, which translates to, I found a bottle of Old Rip Van Winkle for $900 that I didn't buy because it's more than secondary. It's not hard to find these things. They're everywhere if you know where to look, but you won't buy them because they cost a mortgage or a car payment. So, and that's where for me, I'm going to share and again, this person's been in this a lot longer than I have, but I'm going to share my experience and kind of where I'm at. I'm 3.5 years into this. I can definitely relate to a lot of what they're saying. And I can relate to the fact that I never had the opportunity to find a Weller on the shelf or a Elmer T. Lee or any of those any of those bottles that, let's just say, like, even hell, like anything that you can find, like I have not seen a wild turkey, like one of the special release wild turkeys in forever, right? I barely find Russell Reserve picks. I barely find Old Forester single barrel strength picks, right? So this person I know has been in it a lot longer than me, but I remember when I first started, right? I always had bottles on my list that I would go after and be interested in finding. I would make trips up to Tennessee, to Florida, to other places, trying to find bourbons and whiskeys that I was very interested in finding. I had a fun time and I found stuff. They weren't your bangers like everybody else, is after, like he was mentioning here, Weller 12, Emmerich Lee. Like I've never seen a bottle of Antique 107 sitting on the shelf for a decent price. I don't think I've ever found one of those highly allocated bottles sitting on a shelf for a price that I was like, holy shit, I just hit the mother lode. I need to buy this right now. So, it has changed. And I think that's where I have gotten more into rums and tequilas and now these things are even changing because of the demand and the shift, right? But that's where I think I've gotten into this a lot more because of the hunt on it, right? I like to go drive around to stores. Like he said, go in, say hi, talk to somebody. I have the rapport with one place, and maybe I have a decent rapport with one place and a couple other just, common casual highs here and there, right? One or two other places. But I don't have a store I go into all the time because I don't really live right next to something that carries things that I want, right? So it's very different now than it was back in the day. And I think that's a lot of the reason why I do not go hunting that much anymore. Some of you that know me know that I would make trips every 3 to 4 months to Tennessee. When I go to Florida, I don't look for bourbon. I did once. But I look mostly for rum because there's a big rum market down there and I can find rums that I cannot find in Georgia. And they're really hard to find. But we're just talking about bourbon. I got to agree, right? I stepped into this when I think was the tail end of the hype, right? I maybe was like maybe the last half a year to full year was like the last year of the hype. I remember the secondary market was extremely hot. Every time you'd post a bottle of something that somebody was looking for, it would be taken immediately. I always wanted to find that bottle that I could flip and then use that money to buy other things I wanted to buy, right? I always wanted to try to do that. I never really truly successfully did that because of where I was, the tail end of it. Now the secondary market is very, very different than what it was. There's still bottles posted. The prices are higher. There is not people buying them. They're asking for trades, mostly. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that kind of, change in the market. And he's right? Nowadays too, you can go into a store and see a plethora of bottles sitting up on a shelf and collecting dust. I don't care if it's Buffalo Trace releases. I don't care if it is 13th Colony Double Oak. I don't care if it's tequila, rum, bourbon, whiskey, whatever. A lot of that stuff just sits on the shelf because it is marked up so high that you'd have to pay what equates to a house payment or a car payment for it. And at that point, right, when do you start thinking about this going, is this really worth it? What's the value to me? Is the value going to hold, right? Listen, whiskey, bourbon, rum, tequila, it could be a commodity for you. If you buy again, let's make it into the realm of these people like, oh, you're just hoarding it, right? It could be a commodity for you. If you buy the bottle and you don't immediately open it because you have other opens, but you want it in your collection with the intention of drinking it someday, but you just don't drink it and you don't open it and you maintain the bottle, that bottle could be worth equal money to what you paid for it or more money in, let's just say 5 to 10 years from now, right? It's definitely there. Think Wild Turkey, right? Think all those old bottles, the old Weller bottles, right? There is a quality aspect in those bottles that was not there, that's not there now, that a lot of people say is not there now, right? That those older bottles go for more money. There is the fear of FOMO, right? I mean, people are going to go in and be like, oh my God, everybody on Instagram has a Weller 12 or an Elmer T. Lee. Holy crap, I just saw one for the first time ever in my life. It's $200. I'm going to buy it. because they want to be as cool as the other kids and like as cool as the other people and like showcase the bottle, right? I mean, I get it, right? There's a lot of that out there. For a time too, I was like that. I had FOMO on things. I will be honest with you. I don't per se have FOMO so much anymore. I really, not on the bourbon world, that's for damn sure. In the rum world, I look at some of the rums people have and I'm like, son of a bitch, I want that so bad. But then again, you look at the cost, right? And you're like, do you really want that? For example, I've never had a Coroni before. I want a Coroni rum so bad. I would love to have one in my collection. Because Coroni Distillery does not exist anymore, they are extremely, extremely expensive. So these are casks that have been sitting either tropically or continentally across the globe that they release, and from a distillery that's defunct and not there anymore. Always wanted one. I'm just not willing to pay the price. I mean, you're talking $300 plus for a bottle, and have I bought a bottle for $300 plus in the past? Yes, but times have changed, man. Economy is not what it was. Everything's going up in price. I'm more focused on retirement right now. So it's those kind of things, right? There's a lot of factors that play into where you're at with buying these things. But, it's right. Like the FOMO part of it, like people are like, hey, I want to buy this or that, or, I'll pay over secondary, or, this is secondary, I'll buy it anyways, right? And they do it because they have the extra income to do it. But I think that changes a lot of what the market and the world, what everything's right? Think about this. Think about what bourbon is from a community aspect, and not so much me and you as like podcasters and Instagram followers and things like that. But think about the community aspect from your local stores, right? Think about from even going into a store. I really enjoy traveling for a weekend, or maybe even a day, going into stores that I don't normally go into, and meeting people, right? And talking about things and seeing what they have. And a lot of the times where I go to do all of that stuff, those bottles are there, and they're really expensive. I remember. So let's just talk about me and Jack Daniel's 12, right? You guys all know my love for that, but like, I can't tell you, like the last time I went to Tennessee, Jack Daniel's 12 is everywhere. You're talking $3.99 to $4.99 for a bottle of Jack Daniel's 12. I refuse. I absolutely freaking refuse. Number one, it's not hyper limited. You're not talking like 1 out of 200 bottles that were released, right? Of a special batch or something like that. I have bottles that I've purchased of rum that are 20 years old, 15, 20, 25 years old, that are one of 250 bottles. And I didn't pay as much as $3.99 or $499 for those that are tropically aged. So you're talking about something that's 20 years old, that's tropically aged, it's aged like it's 30 to 40 years old, right? Go try to find me a 30 to 40-year-old bourbon that you paid $250, right? I'll just say $250. There are various fluctuations, less and more, right? That's a hyper limited release, like one of 300 bottles in the entire fucking world. It's not the same with bourbon. My bottle will hold its value. My bottle of rum will hold its value, or if anything, increase in value, because for every single drop that somebody else has that they open, right? I bought two bottles. I have a couple bottles of those, and on different various brands. And yes, I was in a store, and yes, I bought both bottles of two of the releases that they had. One's open and the other one's a backup, for when I want to open it, or for when I want to potentially have a little bit of commodity and sell it, right? You can't do that with bourbon nowadays. It's just not there. As time goes on, ages and supplies are going to drop too. So like, and the market's changing. I really truly believe that a lot of the people are in the same shoes that this person and me are in, because I know at least, I can tell you another 20 people that are exactly feel the same way we do right now. And it's getting to the point where it is changing. It's just changing. We'll put it that way. Let me read the next paragraph. So I'm also over limited editions. Sure, there are a few that are yearly releases that have been going on for over a decade, but those aren't the ones I'm talking about. I'm sick of being bombarded with new limited editions that aren't really limited for what for that matter good. I find it difficult to drop 250 plus on a limited from a distillery that is newish, that just has 5-year-old juice in the bottle, but they did something gimmicky. I also dislike that established distilleries are increasing prices on their limited editions, looking at you, Wild Turkey, or are releasing overly expensive bottles for no apparent reason. Again, Wild Turkey Generations comes to mind at a whopping $4.50. You're telling me that your blend of bourbons up to 15 years are worth more than Pappy Van Winkle 23 at MSRPs at $2.50. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but that's kind of the standard people recognize. And this is where I'm at too, right? I made mention of it, and I'll call out this, like, I think Blue Run put out a whole bunch of releases that are like 6 to 8 year old bourbons that had the special fancy colored, or Blue Run, what's the one with the damn butterfly on it? And they were like $250, $300. And I'm like, it's 8-year-old bourbon. How freaking fantastic. Like, how much is $300? Is it really worth that much? And I'm not just picking on the one brand, right? There's definitely other brands that are out there. There are brands that just pop up out of nowhere that source their stuff. Good for you, right? Maybe you're up and coming, you source your stuff, you're getting your own blends, you're working on it. That's fantastic. But you're charging premiums. Like, you're charging costs that are just absolutely absurd. And he's right? Yes, can you find a Pappy Van Winkle for $250? No, you can't. But that's MSRP on it. Let's the demand and the stores that are selling it like that don't really dictate, obviously, what the true cost is, which MSRP, right, which is the suggested retail price from the manufacturer. So, like, having Wild Turkey Generations come out and say this thing is $200 better than the 23-year-old Pappy Van Winkle at $250 or whatever it costs. Maybe I'm off a little bit, but just forgive me, right? I'm just reading through this and talking out loud. You get what I'm saying, right? It's getting to the point where distilleries are even starting to take advantage of us because they realize that there's FOMO. They realize that the market is changing, that it is harder to find things that people want. And because of the limited edition releases that are out there, coupled with the allocation, then makes things very hard to find, so that when you find them, guess what? You spend the money on them because you might have FOMO. Listen, you may or may not agree, but if you take a step back and you really start to see what other people are seeing and see what's happening, it's definitely happening. The bourbon market is definitely declining. There is definitely a shift and a change. You may not see it in all the people that you follow on Instagram, right? Because everything, again, social media, right? My world can be the absolute shit show. I could be poor as fuck. I could have debt out my ass. My debt to income ratio could be fucking negative. But on Instagram and on Facebook, everything's hunky-dory. The world is perfect. Everything's blue skies, puppies, rainbows. I'm eating caviar, drinking champagne every night, and everything's great, right? But the true fact of the matter is life's a shit show. I think that's the same way with even some of the stuff on Instagram. Now, I'm not saying it is, but I believe it could be, right? People just buying bottles to buy bottles. People spending money that they don't have to be able to spend. Trying to stay relevant in the Instagram world, right? By having the newest bottle, the pouring it first, all this stuff. That's, for me, and I'll tell you, my friends as well, that's not who we are. I'm not judging you. Please don't take it that way, right? Again, I've always said to you, you do you. That's just not who we are. And maybe that's not the case, right? Maybe I'm completely fucking wrong, and that's fine too. But I can definitely see there's a shift. Again, I've been in this now for 3.5 years, almost 4 years. Where things were back then is very different than where they are now. You have to just take my word for it, right? And maybe, I don't know how long you've been in it, right? Whoever's listening, but maybe you take a step back and look at this, right? And try to see where things are at. And what I do appreciate too, and I like this, right, is that not everybody is that whole FOMO world, right? There are people that appreciate different things and different distilleries, and they will go support those distilleries, and they will buy things from those distilleries, and they'll do things that are not the norm, right? So I have followers that go and buy things from different distilleries that are not they're not your Buffalo Trace distilleries, right? They won't go they'll introduce new bottles to people, right? I have tried several different new bottles over the last 2 years since I've been on Instagram that I would have never tried before. And shout out to the people that follow me and interact with me, and that have shared samples with me, right? You guys are some of the reasons that I have been introduced to things that I would not have bought myself and that I enjoy. So I appreciate that, right? So not everybody's about FOMO, right? Not everybody is like that, right? People know what they like. They go after those kind of things. So it's just really, just to share one example, right now there's a store in North Georgia that's selling Stag at $199 a bottle. Come on, seriously? Yes, it's a store pick, but it's a $70 bottle of bourbon, and you're charging $200. That stuff's sitting there on the damn thing collecting dust. It's just not, it's not worth it, right? If it is worth it for you and you want it, go get it, right? I'm not judging you, but for me and where I'm at, and for many others, I'm sharing just feedback from others that I've heard too, it's not worth it. It's ridiculous, right? And this store, it's not just the Stag. They know that that's the market. I mean, I think they sell Blanton's for like $150. You know, they're probably the store with the Weller 12 out for $250, right? It's the market's shifting. You used to be able to find Stag on shelves for $60, $70. I remember store picks used to be $99. I remember back when store picks used to be $99. I think my first bottle of Stag I got was $75. You know, and so those bottles are out there, you know, like they used to be there. Now everything's so limited, everything's so allocated that people think they can charge $199 for it. So, and these special releases, right? How good are they? Is Wild Turkey Generations really worth $450? Is 5-year-old juice that was sourced from somebody somewhere else, blended together with something else, that worth, let's just say, $150 to $300, right? I can name you a ton of releases I've seen at $150 to $300 that I cannot believe that it's worth that much. It's all because of the market and where everybody's at. So let me read their last paragraph here. It says, maybe I'm turning into a grumpy old man. I think that sometimes myself too about myself, but I'm really disgusted with the whiskey world at the moment. The hobby I once enjoyed has become something I really detest now. I have largely stopped buying whiskey and really only replenish things that I already enjoy that are readily available. And lately that's been Scotch, but they're no longer safe from people with FOMO who will never open a bottle they buy, or they don't know if they even like it. But some guy on YouTube said that they should buy all of them they see. So, and again, that's where this individual has really kind of turned into Scotch, right? And I like him, I think, with bourbon. This is where I'm at too, is that I'm very much slowing down on the bottles that I buy. My last big bourbon purchase was, I think, October. I don't know if I'm ever going to have one of those again. Especially bourbon, because I know what I like. I like being introduced to new things. Shout out to Nerds and Burbs, for example, who introduced me to that Southern Star Paragon, right? The barrel strength stuff. It's fantastic. I would have never bought a bottle myself at $80, I think. But it is really good. And I'm really glad I had a pour of it. I just got introduced. We just had the Ben Holiday soft red wheat barrel proof as well. A couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. It's really good, right? I'll be honest with you. When I was my buddy texted me and said, snag me a bottle, because he knew I was going to a liquor store and he knew they had it. I did not see the text till I got outside of the store when I was about to leave. But when I was in the store, I saw the bottle and I went, oh, and then I looked at the price point and I said, no. That's where I'm at, right? Not saying it's bad, not saying it's good, right? And then he wanted me to go back in, bought it, had it, right? It was good stuff, right? But I always go back and I'm like, is it worth 90, right? With everything I have, probably no, right? If I were to drink through all the crap I have or get rid of it and then start over and find those few bottles I like the Southern Soul Paragon was good, the Soft Red Wheat was good. Wild Turkey, I'll always have the Jack Daniel's single barrel proofs, the Rise, the bourbons, the Old Foresters, right? I think I'll always have all those on my shelf because I enjoy those and I appreciate those. I don't think my days of going and buying bottles just to buy them or because I have FOMO or because I see it on Instagram or I hear about it on YouTube, I think those days are gone for me with bourbon. I will be honest with you. Rum, as long as the market does not shift and change from the brands that I enjoy, I think I'll always be in that market. So like right now, for example, Hampton Rum Distillery just released their Great House 2023, and they released the Pagos in the US and a new version of the Overproof HLCF, which is their mark. I will probably try to find those and I will buy those. I will probably not buy 3 bottles of Great House 2023 every single year in the past. I brought 3 bottles of Great House 2021. I brought 3 bottles of Great House 2022. I can't tell you how many bottles of Great House 2020 I have because it's my favorite. So like literally if I ever find it on a shelf, I'm buying it. I'll probably always buy those, right? There are certain Appleton Estate rums that are special releases that price point wise compared to the bourbon world are completely, the value is just unbelievable for what you get. Like Appleton Estate will always be one of the 21 I'll always buy. I'll always have a bottle of 21 on my shelf. I have 2 backups now. It's absolutely fantastic. My father-in-law loves to drink it. My wife loves to drink it. It's really good. I'll always buy 4 Squares, right? I have so many bottles of 4 Squares. I need to buy 1 instead of buying 2. What ends up happening is the Touchstone just came out a little bit ago from 4 Square, and I have a bottle and a backup. I really don't need a backup. Just one's fine. But those are the special releases that are the releases I'll buy because the price points haven't gone astronomical on them. Tequila's like that too for me right now, but I know my market with tequila. Tequila's getting really more bourbony as we go along. The price points keep climbing. For example, Siembra Valley's high proof was $65 a bottle. The new batches they're releasing are over 100. It's a 40% markup. I mean, it's insane. I still have stores that have the old release bottle for $65 I can go grab it at, but the new release bottle, I've seen it at several stores now, is easily $100. I think it's $109 or $105. So that's ridiculous to me. I won't pay that much. It's not worth it. There's plenty of, again, just like bourbon, right? Think about your Wild Turkeys, your Russells, your Old Forester 1910, 1920s, right? Think about all those bottles that you really, and let's even put like the Ben Holidays in there. Let's put the Southern Star Paragons at $70, $80 a bottle, right? There's bottles that you really like that you will drink every single day and not break the bank on, right? That you can get, that aren't limited, that you're not allocated, right? You're going to be able to go get those. Same thing with tequilas, right? Tequila Ocho, Don Fulano. Let's see. If you can find, sometimes you can find Fortaleza cheap still too, right? There's still accessible tequilas. Same thing with rums, right? Rums for me, I'll be honest with you, I like the higher end rums. I'm paying anywhere between $100 to $200 on rums, but even that, like I said, slowed down. I'm not buying as much as I used to. So there's definitely a shift in the market. It's coming. Things are changing. FOMO's there. People are buying bottles. The marketing's changing. There's new bourbon companies, distilleries, whiskey, whatever, being dropped every single time. So things are definitely shifting. It's going to happen. So I'm curious as you hear this, right? As the last paragraph says, maybe I'm turning into a grumpy old man. Maybe that's what it is, right? I've been 3.5, almost 4 years into this now, right? Am I becoming that grumpy old man? Probably. I mean, I'm at the age where I can already sit here and start thinking about my kids and thinking about retirement and making a plan for that. So maybe I am turning into a grumpy old man, right? But again, I think I see the shift in the market. And when I read this, I read this from this person's experience, but then I also have my own experiences with it too that do relate to what this person is saying. Now, again, they've been in it longer than I have, so they've had more accessibility, more relationships, more time to things that I would have never had access to. I mean, some of the bottles that this person has in their collection or they've had are insane, and prices for them were so accessible, it was unbelievable. You can't get that anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. So I even know from when I went out, when I was doing things, when I started, right, bottles that I could get for certain prices, like you can't get anymore. So like for another example, like I bought a Hancock's Reserve at Total Wine early in 2023. I paid $60 for it. Did I want it? No. But at the time I had FOMO. I wanted it as part of my collection. I still haven't cracked the damn thing. It's sitting on my friggin' shelf. It's an easy drinker. I'll drink it one of these days, right? But again, it was one of those things that I saw it for $59.99 at Total Wine. I remember it, right? I even said to my wife, I'm like, oh shit, a Hancock's. I'm like, I've never fucking seen that. I'm like, it's $60. I'm buying it. Hit the jackpot. Now, I will tell you, both in Georgia and South Carolina, you cannot find a Hancock's. That's not a store pick. It's just a Hancock's for less than $100 at Total Wine. That's ridiculous. I bought one, and that was later in 2023. Actually, I don't think it was that late. I think it was like July, August, summer time frame that bottle now was $100 that I had paid $60 for it, no more than earlier that year. So like, it just doesn't make sense. Like all this stuff just keeps on jacking up in price. Something's got to give. You can't just keep on raising prices and think that everyone's going to keep chasing. It's going to come to a crashing halt at some point. Something's going to take it over. What do they always say? What happens once is going to happen again. I mean, bourbon was dead back in the 80s. It was a vodka world, right? Do I think we're ever going to go back to a vodka world? No. Do I think bourbon's ever going to be dead? No. But it's going to happen. There's going to be a shift. I mean, shit, the clothes I was wearing in the 80s and the 90s, my kids are all trying to wear now, you know? So it's like, you know, it's very much like that. So, again, sharing my feedback, sharing my thoughts. This could be pretty controversial, but let me know what you think. I've been rambling now for a while, but I'd be really curious to hear your feedback onto this topic. Are you experiencing this? Are you seeing it? What do you think if you are seeing it? How has it impacted you? What do you foresee for your future, right? Have you already started to make a change? Are you only looking for certain things? Do you not find it as fun anymore as it was before? Those kind of things. I think the interaction amongst myself and my small community I have is fantastic. I appreciate all of you guys. So from acquaintances that I've have on Instagram, who I've talked with, to people that I've met briefly and spent some time with, to people that I spend a lot of time with, like, I really appreciate that. We've shared some amazing pours, some fun stories, some laughs, some times together, some hunts together. It's a blast, right? I appreciate all that stuff. But if you look at the broader spectrum of things that are happening, I'd really be curious to get your thoughts and to get your feedback on it, and kind of where you see yourself, where you've been, where you are today, and kind of where you're going. Share with me. Interact with me on Instagram. I'd appreciate it. So, all right. That's the end of this podcast. I'm done rambling. Everyone's probably like, shut the fuck up, Jason. You've talked for way too long. So thanks, guys, all for listening. Appreciate it. Again, if you like the podcast, please give us a like. Please give us a rate us, give us a 5-star, give us. There's no us. There's just me. It's not Jason and Jason. It's just me. Give me a 5-star rating. Leave me a comment. If you think I suck, ping me on Instagram, man. I don't care. Just tell me, you're garbage. I can't listen to you. Awesome. Let me know what I can improve. Maybe there is something I can improve. But share your feedback with me, interact with me, give me your thoughts about this episode and the topic we talked about. I'd appreciate it. Until next time, until we record again and I talk to you guys again, cheers. Thank you guys all so much for the support and for the interaction. I certainly appreciate it. You guys are all amazing. Take care. Be safe. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon. This has been the Dram Amateur Podcast.